But what I look for in applications, I get a ton of applications, especially for sourdough. So I got one last night, actually. And I've seen her application before. I recognize her business name. So I know that she goes to other markets and she's consistent in other markets. But her application was very vague. Even knowing, I think it's been a year that I've been seeing her around. If you don't give me enough information, then I'm gonna assume that you don't have your stuff straight.
Welcome back to another episode of the Breadwinner Podcast. It's Carolyn here, and I am so excited for this episode. I have a guest with me today, and this is someone that I've been really excited to talk with for quite a while. So I have Ashley here. She is the organizer of the market where I sell every second and fourth Saturday. So you all have heard me talk about the market a lot. And Ashley is the brains behind it.
The chaos coordinator.
The chaos coordinator. She coordinates and organizes the market so well. I think exceptionally compared to other markets that I've been a part of. So I wanted you to come on and just talk to us a little bit from your perspective about being successful at a market. And I think I have a few questions for you. So I'm excited to dive in.
Cool.
And yeah,
Me too.
will you tell us just a little bit about who you are and how you ended up being the market organizer?
I had no clue it would end up here, first of all. I bought the land with the intention of putting a wedding venue there. So I needed a way to pay insurance and taxes, but without constructing any. And I loved going to markets. So we lived in the Woodlands. We went to a lot of markets, tried to buy as many fresh produce bread things we could. So I thought that would be really great. I don't have to construct anything. They bring a tent and I just need to organize it. I had no idea. I had to go get permits from the city. I then was going to farmers markets, not for myself, but to pick and choose and see who was what. But really, it was a way to pay for my bigger future plans. And that turned out not to be what we needed to do. So God works in funny ways. The market took off. It was on a Monday. Did you start on a Monday?
No, I came as a customer. It's like 2 minutes from my house. But I never sold until Saturdays.
So it was the Monday market. And because I was doing weddings on Saturdays. So it was COVID time. Everything was shut down. And there were a lot of people that started small businesses. So when I went to the city council to get the permit to have the market, they asked me, well, why? Why a Monday? And everything was shut down. So many people needed a storefront that couldn't afford it. Just getting started, you're really penny pinching and just trying to figure out even if this is a thing you can sustain. And I wanted to provide that for people. It turned out great. People came, but then it slowed down when people went back to work. So I switched to Saturday. That's when you started coming. And it exploded. It really did great. I dropped weddings. So now this is my full-time thing. But it is still paying for taxes and insurance because there were a few people living on the property when we bought it. So now they are gone. So now I'm fully responsible for paying taxes and insurance while we plan for more commercial building.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited about because that still means that small businesses are able to continue to grow in the same location. It's very exciting.
So exciting. I love the vision and I love that it's so close to me.
It's literally so close. I was driving here today. I said, Bob, you really can just hop over your neighbors.
Literally, there's one property.
Yeah. Toss the bread over the fence.
It's literally a stone's throw. So when I forget something, it's not a big deal.
No.
I'm like, I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I love the way the use of the land has changed, but the heart behind it hasn't.
Yeah.
And so you're not photographing weddings anymore.
Yeah.
But
I am photographing a lot of product.
And you're so good at it. I love that you serve your vendors that way too. That you come and take beautiful pictures of our product.
That is something that I have found is unique. Other markets, they don't do that. When I've been following other markets' pages and other vendors' social media pages, I do notice that our market's page stands out because of the imagery.
That makes sense.
And it's easy. Vendors want good imagery, but it's not easy to do. Taking pictures of food there's a whole science behind it.
Yeah.
And so when I get good photos, then the vendors are like, oh, can I just take that off the market's Facebook page? Absolutely. Like, yes, please.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we don't ever think about it either. I get
No.
set up and maybe I think to take a picture or a quick video, but I'm not sitting there taking a beautiful photo of my product in packaging. So it's such a gift. So you started the market on Mondays and then it slowed down a little bit. You switched to Saturday. What are some of the challenges that maybe you didn't expect in those early stages and that maybe prompted the switch to Saturdays?
It's funny looking. I've kept all of my notes, all of my stuff from the Monday market. And I joke because like I wrote down notes, literally wrote down notes. I have a little binder that I would write down notes in. And so I would have a mark through somebody and canceled last minute, canceled the night before, called in sick, but I don't think she's sick. Like I had a vendor call in sick saying she didn't feel good and couldn't make it to the market. And then she showed up to the market because she had pre-orders and met the people there and then walked the market and was all happy. And I thought, you don't look sick at all. You just don't want to be here. She had made enough sales and pre-orders to where she didn't want to sit there all day, which I completely understand. I don't want to sit there all day either sometimes, especially when it's slow. But that was a big challenge. Finding good quality vendors that will show up when they say they're going to show up. I had a lot of cancellations. It was a running joke how many people canceled this morning.
Wow.
And it was at least 5 on the regular. You know how you have the long string of vendors, one after another.
Yeah.
I'd have a lot of gaps in there. And then I'd be like, okay, just scoot your tent just like a foot or two over just to make the gap less. That was a challenge. People saying they wanted to do big things, but then you get 4 or 5 markets in and you realize, oh my gosh, this is really hard. That is a lot of vendors. A lot of people have really great plans, but then when you get into it, none of it's easy.
Yeah.
There's really no easy route to do all of this on your own. It's hard work and consistency. So that was probably the biggest goal. And getting paid. Getting paid. I just think this occurred to me. I don't know if that happens in bread. If you have a porch pickup and someone doesn't pay you, like the money's
Used to before I required pre-order.
Yes. So I would send out an invoice. I was using QuickBooks. I would send out an invoice and then vendors would sit on it and not pay. They would want to wait. What's the weather going to be like? Am I going to have another opportunity somewhere else? So then they'd cancel on me and I wouldn't get paid. Then I didn't have people on the wait list because I was literally out going to market searching for people. So yeah, I lost a lot of money and I was paying for ads at that time. I wanted to grow the presence. So I was using the extra money that I had to pay for ads. So then I would advertise for a produce person. They're going to be here and pay for it. And then the produce person cancels the morning of. So then people show up to the market expecting produce. Then they ask me, I look like a liar, and they get frustrated and don't want to come back. So it was all a balancing act. But now it's not like that now. I have a huge waiting list now.
Like it's knocking on the door.
Yes. Now it's like a whole nother problem with that. Like really people getting upset with me that they keep getting waitlisted or rejected. But we have people like you that are regulars that come every single time and bring a lot of people.
And I'm booked up through July.
Yeah. And you'll be like the first person who's, hey, the application's open for the summer. Get in there.
Yeah, I jump on it. I don't want to miss out. It happened to me early a couple of times.
Yes.
Like, you had booked bakers on that. There was not room left. There's just so much that goes on behind the scenes that we don't realize.
Yes.
And that's really a big part of why I wanted you here. Is as vendors, we probably don't have the full picture of the amount of work that goes into it.
Yeah.
For you as an organizer, and how can we respect you better just with a more informed perspective and know how to show up better at a market, be more successful, know what to look for in a market, things like that. So that kind of is my next question.
Yeah.
As vendors, when we're looking for a good market, what do you think are some of the things that a vendor just around the country really should be looking for?
Yeah, you need to know your business.
Okay.
because every market is so different. There's some markets that are only handmade markets. They don't want any direct sales or resales. Some markets are really just geared for food. Some are really more geared for art. And some are big markets, some are small markets. So knowing your business and your sales, knowing how much do I need to make this worth my time?
Mm-hmm.
And our market's 5 hours. It's only 2 times a month, but it's also smaller. There's markets around that have 100 or 150 vendors that a lot of vendors wanna get into, but also the vendor fee is steeper.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to weigh that, and it's the same amount of time. Like, what, New Braunfels Farmers Market, I think it's still about 5 hours. They start at 10 to 2 or 10 to 3. The vendor fee to get in is more. There's 150 vendors there. It only happens once a month, but people want in there. They really want in there. And the lady who started that market, similar to me, like just starting a side hustle that just grew. I think it's been 10 years that she's been doing that market, but there are vendors that say it's too big. So those type of vendors offer more than one space for like kind businesses. So maybe there's 4 different sourdough bakers. Maybe there's 3 different vendors that do barbecue sauce. There's 10 different jewelry vendors. So what happens is people will come into the market, they'll start at one spot, they'll go around, and they'll see all the things, and maybe they like something when they first entered the market, but as they've walked through, there are so many other similars that they'll buy it from someone else instead of going back by.
Yeah.
So placement is also important. That's one thing. I placed you far in the back. How long was it? Like 6 months ago, last summer, maybe?
Yeah. And the first time I was back there, I was like, wow.
So it's a science behind it.
Yeah.
If you place people right at the front of your market, they're gonna go it. I watch, so I'm there the whole time, and I'll watch those kind of things. Watch how people shop, how long do they stay at certain tents, and I was watching people go park, go straight to you, and then leave. It's like, okay, I need to make people really work for this. And I listen to other podcasts that are about market coordinating. And so that's why I put you in the back. Like, I'm going to make people walk through here and figure out where she is.
Yeah.
And even still, people will go straight to you, but they still have to work for it. It's things like that. Knowing your business, I think, is the most important thing about choosing a market. The market coordinator, you can get an idea of that based on the information they send out.
Right.
I've heard that some markets, there's no information given out beforehand.
Right.
You show up, you have to find the person, you don't know the person, you don't know where you're supposed to go, what's happening. So that's important. If you're getting information up front, if you are getting timely responses, you're probably going to have a successful market. If you're not getting timely responses, if you don't know who you're contacting, if you don't have any information before you get there, it might not be a market that has been promoted well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's my job. My job is to get out there and promote the businesses that are going to be there so that people come, know that you're there, know that you're going to be consistent. And it really is, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what, and trying things out, it's hard to know what market's good. You got to give it at least 3 months, in my opinion.
I think the key.
At least 3 months and consistent. You got to go every single time. That way you can see the pattern of traffic, because some markets are really great one day, but then the next market, it's really slow. And for what reason, who knows? So yeah, consistency, try it out, give it time, and then figure out, is this going to be worth it or not?
Yeah, that's so good. I think that is something that I've observed with just working with other bakers, that they might give up on a market after just one try.
Yes.
And I've tried multiple different markets, and there are a couple that I've only gone to 2 or 3 times, but maybe if I had stuck with them, my success would have been different. But ultimately, I've stayed consistent at this one for over a year.
Yeah.
And now I have my regulars who keep coming back. And so don't give up too soon. And because people who buy from you the first time and then come back hoping to find you and you're not there, or maybe you're there the next week, but they don't come back the next time. The key to gaining those regular followers is to be where they're going to, they know they'll learn that they can find you week after week at the same spot.
People really are creatures of habit.
That's true.
And especially when you find something that you like bread or jellies, I found that people are really particular about their jellies.
Yes.
But once you find something that you like, you really want to go there and get that thing. The lemonade vendor, do you remember her? She sold like the big lemonades. There are a ton of people coming to the market going, well, where is she? When is she going to be back? Like, I don't know, but people really loved it and now they can't find it. So there's some that just don't come back.
Yeah.
All they come for is lemonade.
I love hearing kind of the behind the curtain
Yeah.
view. For our audience specifically, do you have any advice for people who might be hesitant to start selling at markets?
If you're hesitant, maybe you don't have your details straight for your business. If you're giving a lot of information, I sell these specific products and that's different than other people. Like scones. These are the type of scones that I do. I do bagels once a month. I'll offer it at the fourth market every time. I only do these type of cookies. I do not do these things. And photos. Even if the photos aren't good, because I personally can fix that. But any kind of photo to see what you offer. And the biggest thing for me is if you have a photo of your setup. Because there are some people that don't put photos of their setup in their application. Then they show up and it's a little of nothing. They don't have enough product to last all day. And then they're upset that they have to sit there because either they sold out or their things aren't selling. And it's not, I don't know what the right word is for it, but it's not aesthetically pleasing. Like when you walk through the market and you just see a couple of things on their table, there's a difference at the end of the day. When you see that their table's empty, that gives a sense of urgency. And you can put that sold out sign there. Then you can talk to people and say, hey, like, this is what I offer. Come earlier next time. That's different. Yeah. Clear communication in your application. If you can't put a full sentence in your application, I'm not going to give you the time of day.
Okay.
That sounds harsh.
No, that's important.
It is important. And I have the information everywhere. The same information is on our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and our website. Each email has the same information. If a vendor asks me a question via email or text message or Facebook, Instagram, and it's somewhere in all the things, but they didn't take the time to go find it before asking me, I'm probably not going to accept you to the market.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things, like you said, going on behind the scenes that if you as a business owner aren't taking the initiative to figure things out, then you're wasting my time because you're being lazy. And that's not the kind of person you need at the market.
So I feel like some listeners might hear you and say, wow, that sounds harsh. But honestly, this is why the market is successful and why you have a wait list of 3 months, because you have high standards and you have an expectation that we present ourselves as professionals. Even if we are home-based businesses, we are still presenting ourselves to the community as professionals.
Yes.
And in alignment across the board at the market, so customers come through and they see professional people. So for listeners who are like, wow, that's harsh, but if you're not experiencing markets in your area to that standard, maybe you can encourage that. But also if you do find a market that is requiring more than you might normally see with others, that could be a really good one to try to get involved with, to run well.
I learned God is so good. He blessed me with this little old lady when I first started. When I was going around market, she's 80 something, Dorothy. She had a butcher shop in, I think, the Seguin area. She'd been doing markets for 30 years.
Wow.
And I found her just down the street at this tiny little market. I think there was maybe 5 vendors that would set up in this parking lot. She came to my market and she gave me a lot of advice. She also said, never stop. So in the winter months, I know some places it gets crazy cold and you can't grow. there. But here in Texas, the weather is pretty warm constantly, so don't think I've ever canceled a market, ever. We've been out there in 32 to 35 degrees, and we're, like, standing by the blacksmith's forge and, like, trying to stay warm. But she gave me a lot of advice, and that was one of the things is don't bend your rules for anybody, because if you bend your rules for one person, then you're gonna feel like you need to for others, and then it's a slippery slope to there's no rules.
Right.
And if there's no rules, there's chaos. Vendors showing up late, leaving early. So I did have to learn the hard way that my husband says that I've definitely gotten meaner the last few years. So it's either do or die. If I don't have organization, then people are going to see it and the vendors are going to feel it.
Yeah.
And sales is the most important thing. Get people there, get them there safely, make them feel welcomed. And whenever you do see a nice organized space, you feel more comfortable to buy things. There's a couple of little old ladies that I hear often. They eavesdrop all the time. Like, I walk the market and I'll stop in some place and I'll listen to shoppers talking.
Yeah.
There's these little old ladies that come that they are a little anxious about buying homemade food.
Okay.
Like cleanliness of the home. How do they do it? What are the ingredients? I'm not really sure. They legitimately trust big box stores more than they trust home bakers. And so I've tried to insert myself here and there to encourage them that y'all do follow strict protocols and rules. They might be state. I know the state of Texas is lenient with cottage food law. You just place the label on there. It is what it is. But y'all take it seriously. Y'all want to provide good products. And that's what I see in your application is that you've taken the time to provide good products. It's packaged well. Then when you show up at the market, you're organized. I can see you pulling things out and setting things up. And all of that translates to the customer. They can feel it and they can see it. And then if everything is tidy, they're going to be more comfortable to buy from you.
Yeah. That the whole picture, thinking of it that way is super helpful. So we've covered how to stand out as a good guest at the market and a good seller. Communicate well, present yourself professionally, do your homework.
Yep.
And have your ducks in a row before going asking questions that you can't find the answer to.
Yeah.
What about once you're set up there, do you have ideas of like best practices for engaging with customers or even with other vendors?
It's funny. Everybody's personalities are different. There's one guy that came to the market for a few times and he never got up out of his chair. You have to be a salesperson, knowing your business. It all really boils down to that. If you know your numbers, you know your product, you're going to know how to talk about it. And if you're more of an anxious person, not really a people person, having maybe a handful or even 2 or 3 talking points, because you really do say the same thing over and over again all day long. So if you just have those couple of things that you can say about your product, then that will start a conversation. And being able to answer questions about your product is really key. Being helpful. If you see the vendor next to you maybe struggling with something, offering to help, that's huge. I see that. There was one vendor that it was a husband and wife. They were a little elderly and they didn't help each other. And they lasted 2 markets, maybe 3 markets, but it makes a difference. People feel things like that. They feel if you're comfortable and confident in your business. So if you aren't confident in the product that you offer, maybe you're not ready. Maybe start smaller with popping up at your church or your kid's school, setting up in small places like that. Or there are some businesses that are wanting to get the word out there. So gyms, workout studios, boutiques, you can contact those people and say, hey, this is what I do. I'm trying to get my foot in the door. Would you mind if I set up a table in front of your store for 2 hours, an hour, and see how it goes? That'll get you practice in getting in front of people without the stress of being there for 5, 6, 7 hours with hundreds of people.
Yeah, that's a really good way to get your toes wet. And you don't have to invest in the canopy tent yet and add in those extra equipment costs.
And you can offer to pay them. Like, I will pay you $20 every hour I sit here, just to give them incentive. That has a friend of mine does that in New Braunfels.
Okay.
She'll do a pop-up every now and then, and she'll ask other small businesses that are related, complementary businesses, and it helps her. She doesn't take a commission or anything. It helps her business too.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea. Last question. If we've touched on this a little bit, but what are some of the most common mistakes that you see vendors making? And what should we be aware of to avoid them?
Mistakes. I don't know. I think weights is the most important thing.
Oh, yes.
People forget their weights.
Yeah, to weight on the length of their tent.
Yeah. It is no small thing. People think that's like the last. No, that should be the first thing that you do. You spend so much time making these things, especially products like yours and this breakable things, candles, jellies. If any wind kicks up, you've lost all your product.
Yeah.
And you have to pack up and you've wasted your time. And it's really sad. That when I read the question, that was the first thing that popped up. And it seems like a silly thing,
but it's those things that we don't think about.
And the little discs that come with the canopies, not going to cut it. That's what I still not going to cut it.
I do have a heavy kettlebell, but I have a couple of those little.
A kettlebell works. 1 or 2 on opposite ends, that works. But if you use those little discs, you need literally like 5 of those on top of each other. But we're also up on a bluff where the wind kicks up. So every market's different. Going to the market location before you actually are a vendor is really important so that you can see that kind of a thing. Other mistakes. I don't know. I think there's a big gray area between not enough product and too much product.
Yeah.
So there's a cookie vendor that just started coming. She does like the decorative sugar cookies. And she was about to go all out for her first market. Hundreds and hundreds of cookies. Said, you are going to burn yourself out because if you get to a market, it's your first one, and then you have to bring all that product home and then deal with it, it's discouraging.
Yeah.
So starting out smaller and then adding on. Okay, I know I sold 50 loaves of bread for this first one, and people were still coming to my tent looking for bread. Maybe I'll do 5 more next time.
Yeah.
Then I'll do 10 more. And then instead of doing more later, maybe I'll add a bagel or I'll add scones. That way you're not burning yourself out, wasting product, and then on the back end doing a porch pickup or something, having to give it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet that would hurt to have to give all that away.
It's happened to me a couple of times.
Hopefully that's not this Saturday.
I hope so, because I'm being really ambitious.
I know I need bread.
This might be in my January review. I might be like, I brought way too much to the market. But honestly, I don't know. I feel good about it. Turning the tables just a little bit. Some of our listeners might not have a great market in their area or market at all and feel led to maybe be the one who gets it going in their area.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have so many thoughts in this.
I do.
But what is like a little bit that they should know about?
It's really funny that you ask that because there was a lady that reached out to me. She was a baker here in town. And I think it was November that she reached out, and she was in that exact same position. She couldn't get into markets. It's not that there wasn't good ones around. It's just that they're booked.
Yeah.
Since COVID, a lot of people are doing this, are side gig out of their home, only doing it on weekends. So she wanted to start a market, and we've been back and forth in Facebook Messenger. So I've thought a lot about this recently. You have to be able to have a lot of tabs open at one time. Right. You know that there was a thing going around where it's 50 tabs open and
yeah, all the time.
Yes. There are questions coming in from all different places. There are times where I don't know what I've told to who. So I'll repeat myself and then, oh, you already told me that. Okay, that's fine. It's better to hear it over and over again than to misinformation. But having a system.
Okay.
I started out using Google Forms and it didn't even occur to me. It was all by trial and error. Right now I'm on my 3rd system. And I think I finally have it down, but I do pay for that system.
Yeah.
A lot.
But I think it's part of why you're able to run efficiently.
Yes, it
It's
really is.
great experience as a vendor applying. It makes it really easy.
Yeah. So at first it wasn't easy. It was Google Forms. You would fill out the Google form. It's the same basic questions as it is now in the application. But then I would get a notice that a form was submitted and there wasn't any organization to it. So you could have submitted your application in, okay, say it's January, but you don't want to come to a market until July. On Google Forms, it doesn't like separate all that out. So then I would have to go, I have an app called Trello.
Yeah.
So it's an organization app. So I would make a line item for this market date and a line item for this, and then input their information manually into it. So it was a lot of hours trying to just keep things organized. And then I would send out individual text to the vendors with the information. That took a whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Organization is key. Having tough skin, because people get real mad at you.
Yeah, I believe it.
I'm a different person now. And the lady that runs New Braunfels Farmers Market, I know her through a past vendor. And apparently she's a different person now too.
Okay, so running a market changes you.
It changes you. People, I've heard through the grapevine that people think she's mean.
Okay.
But now being 3.5 years into this market, I understand where she's coming from.
Because you have to get used to holding the line. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're not going to make everybody happy. You're not going to be able to accept everybody. And people sometimes feel like they have a great product, but maybe it's not the right fit for that market. Like car freshies.
Yeah.
A lot of people love car freshies, but they never sell at our market, ever. You have to have tough skin. You have to be able to say no, be organized. And when I first started, I was like, going out to every market. I had the business cards. I was trying to convince people how great this market location was when I hadn't even really started yet. I had maybe 10 vendors and 5 cancel every time. A little bit of fibbing there at the beginning, but it worked out.
You gotta fake it till you make it.
But it worked. I did have a good location. I knew it. Yeah, I really did know that.
You have a lot going for you in terms of another thing I guess you could look for people looking for a market is parking. Like the city you've mentioned, our neighboring city, New Braunfels, the parking at that market is really difficult.
Yeah.
And the parking here is not.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to just have on the radar when you're looking is for customers. They may be disgruntled and frustrated because they just spent 15 minutes parking.
Yes. There's a big market down towards downtown San Antonio. That's a big issue there. And vendors are required to park far away and haul their stuff in. So you need wagons and you need to plan for that.
Yeah.
And sometimes your car is already packed with your product. So literally just putting a wagon in there is a no-go. I got to strap it to the top, to the front of the car, someone bring me it. But those small things make a big difference. So going there prior is important. And then starting a market, permits. I had no idea. So this woman that I've been talking about with starting a farmer's market since the fall, she doesn't have any land herself. So she would be renting land from somebody or renting a parking lot from somebody. And that's not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
So there was a market that started right down the road from our market 4 years ago, right before we did. It was in just a grassy parking lot. So the city gave them permission to do it. They got a temporary permit, which is not cheap. It's about $800.
Wow.
And they were going to rent the parking lot of the amenity center next door. And so paying for the permit, then renting the parking lot, it wiped him out. He lasted 3 months.
Wow.
And that's something that you really have to consider is if you don't own the land, you're going to be paying someone else. And then if you're paying someone else, then you're going to have to up your vendor fee. And then our small business is going to be able to pay that fee. Are they going to make their money back if they're not going to come to your market? It's really all a balancing act.
Yeah. Wow.
And insurance.
Oh my gosh. So all these things we don't know.
Insurance. I had no clue. When I first started, it was very minimal because I had max 15 tents there, so not much foot traffic. Now I redid insurance and I almost threw up. Oh my gosh. So I pay for a porta potty. That's part of the permit. I have to provide that. The tenant that I have in the barn, the septic system is minimal. Like we're barely making it by with just her business. So we can't use that. So porta potty, trash, and insurance, the permit itself, and advertising, it really all adds up.
Wow.
Over time. The porta potty, that expense just went up this year, an extra $50. So that's more expensive now. But the insurance, when I told the carrier how many people come to the market at a time, I was like, maybe I should have fibbed that one too. But I've had to call the ambulance 3 different times, heat exhaustion in the summer. So we know that a fire truck can pull on up in there and do a U-turn. So that's good to know. But yeah, there's just a lot to think about.
I'm glad that you're sharing this because there's so much that we wouldn't think about. Like, it's part of my heart behind the podcast is there's just so much that you learn by doing. And so people can skip the learning curve a little bit by learning from someone who's been through it in so many areas. So this is just a really good example of that.
Yeah.
So are you 3 years in?
3.5. So this coming Labor Day will be 4 years.
Okay.
Wow, that's great.
That's amazing.
Crazy.
So it's not been a walk in the park, clearly, but you are still doing it.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about maybe the rewarding or the part that kept you in it?
Yeah. First, it's the people, like meeting people like you and watching how you've grown. Literally, like, it's gonna make me cry. Like, it's crazy. So I thought of this about 15 years ago. I wanted a studio of my own, like a photography studio. And I knew that I wanted complementary businesses around me to all help each other out. Like other people have skills I don't have. I tried to do baking for my daughter when she was raising money for her mission trip. And I thought of you so often. I don't know how she does this. The planning of the ingredients and the rise time and the bake time and how many loaves and packaging and making sure it stays fresh. And oh, I burnt this one and oh, that one didn't rise. It was so much. And so when you say you don't really know what other businesses do behind the scenes, it's mind blowing. And it's rewarding to see people leave the market because they're too big. It's a double-edged sword. There was a coffee truck that we started at the same time. She was building her coffee truck while I was starting the market. She came in a tent for several markets. Then she stayed for about 2 years and then she moved on. We never really talked about it, but I just knew that she needed bigger events. And I love watching her still grow. And they're looking for brick and mortar now. And if it wasn't for my having this land and being able to share it, there are a lot of businesses that wouldn't exist. And when I think about that, it's wow. The idea behind buying the land, it didn't stay the same with the wedding venue, but it's so much better. It's so much better. And so we're working on developing the land now to add more commercial space, like literal buildings for these small businesses. And it really blows my mind. It is really every time. So markets this weekend, I've been sending out emails and looking at the market map, trying to figure out who's going to go where, making sure everybody has the information they need. And I'm tired and I'm dreading Saturday. And it happens every week before market. Every week before a market, I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta make the market post. I sit down and I plan out all the market posts for social media. Oh, I guess I'll do it. Then Saturday comes and I see all the sales and the happy faces and then hearing the customers talk about what they bought, coming back because they love this one product. It fills my cup. It is literal chaos. I am the chaos coordinator, but it's so sweet. It's really sweet. It's worth it. I haven't paid myself ever in 3.5 years that I've been doing this, but I still own the land.
Yeah.
So I call that a win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think the way that the market is serving the community is so needed and really,
Yeah.
I think it is the impetus to making local shopping the way we do life here in our community.
I do think that we have gotten so used to getting things quick and easy, that the way that the food industry, I hope, is shifting, the way our culture is shifting. I do think that small mom and pop shops, do it yourself, I think they're going to explode in the next 5 to 10 years. Doing business this way, where you connect with the people that are eating your bread. These people, they live in the community. It does something in your heart that's way different than selling on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's just, there's something different about it. It keeps you going. And it's never easy, right?
It's not.
It's never
It's so hard. People don't realize how hard it is.
Yeah.
All the parts of it, but it is so rewarding.
Yeah. When you have a system, like looking back here, you're so organized and all of that, but I know that the weather changes and your sourdough changes too. So you just have to go with the flow and realize when you need to make a change. Like when I changed the market from Monday to Saturday, I was scared.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to come? Is it just going to fall apart? But it could be better than you expect, because I would have never guessed how it's exploded since I made that change.
Yeah.
Sometimes the change is exactly what you need. Maybe you change to grow, or maybe you change to get smaller.
Yeah. And both changes can be exactly what you need sometimes.
Can be beneficial. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yep.
This is a total backtrack a little bit, but you said something that jogged my memory that I wanted to ask you about, and it's totally unrelated to, this is not a smooth transition at all. But it's something that I really wanted to ask you about. So sometimes you place vendors next to each other that are in the same industry. So I've had bakers beside me multiple times.
Yeah.
And often either the baker who's next to me or the customers walking through are like, oh, you're right next to your competition. Why do you do that? I know there's a reason.
And yeah, there's a reason, and it's based on what each offers. So if one baker offers something completely different than the other, then you're going to get business because it's top of mind. So when a shopper is going through the market and they see something on this table and then they look over and they don't see it on that table, then this is a specialty thing for this vendor. I have to get it from them because that one doesn't offer it. And there really is a difference. And sometimes it might be small differences. Maybe this vendor only offers these certain bagels.
Yeah.
But this vendor offers these certain bagel cookies. Cookies too. You might be next to someone who sells cookies, but your cookies are totally different. And people will buy right then and there if they can look over and see, I'm not going to get it if I keep walking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That makes sense. Because a lot of times it'll be like a cookie baker, and it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Be decided baker. It's fun to talk shop. But people will comment on it because they don't understand that perspective, and that makes perfect sense. But I've often seen people buy a cookie next to me and then come and buy bread from me.
Yeah.
So it's the coordination.
And that's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about food at that moment.
Yeah.
So if you have several food vendors that all offer a little something different, they're thinking of food, they're probably going to buy from the next vendor over.
Okay.
And then art and jewelry. Okay, I'm thinking about that. And if you have, and it does get difficult whenever there's so many different things. Sometimes I'll just be like, okay, I have 4 spaces left. Who am I going to stick where? And then I just have to do it. But then I put a jelly person next to you one time, because if you just got your bread, you're going to need jelly to go with it.
Yeah.
And it goes hand in hand, or honey, honey and bread. That goes really well together. But yeah, there really is a science behind it. And I listen to those conversations too. I'll make a note of it and I'll try things out. I'll try vendors next to each other, not only for personality, but for also product.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work out, or if a vendor doesn't like it, sometimes vendors aren't comfortable with something similar right next to them.
I think someone's asked to be moved away from me.
Yes. And I try to honor that. But then if I feel like it's not good for the market, I will push back and say, hey, this is what I can offer you. And this is why. If you're not comfortable with it, I don't know. You're going to have to make a decision here.
Yeah.
Either stay with what I can offer you or find another market. And I'm more comfortable saying that now because I've developed the system. I feel confident in saying those things to people now. When I first started, I was like, oh, maybe. And that goes with what I said at the beginning about knowing your business.
Yeah.
It's really all boils down to that.
It's amazing. And you have so much experience now to back it up. You're not just speaking from fear, you're speaking from actual.
I've seen watched this. Yeah. And I follow another, it's so nerdy, but I follow another podcast about market vendors. I'm thinking of going to a conference next year about it, which my husband is like, you've really just got off the deep end.
I am we're on a podcast about bread, very micro niche topic. So I'm nerdy right there with you.
Yeah, I love it though. I love it. It fills my cup. It fills others' cup. And I feel like what we do is important. Providing something other than big box store is huge. Yeah.
So important.
It is.
Thank you for doing what you do.
And thank you for doing what you do because girl, I'm not baking anymore.
I'm happy to bake for this. You don't want to bake for themselves.
My daughter's going to Honduras again. I'm like, okay, we got to figure out something else. Not baked goods. If you want to do it, you do it. I am not anymore. I made market mistakes when I was helping her bake. I wasn't communicating well. I missed a couple of emails. I didn't place people well. Once I got to the market and got my daughter set up, I looked around and went, I should not have put them there. Oh no, I hope they're not mad at me. But yeah, it's not an easy job.
Yeah. Wow. You do it so well.
Oh, thank
and you're
you.
such a gift to our community.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, this is so good. I am so glad that we had this conversation.
Me too.
And
It's been a while coming.
It really happened.
We had to cancel a couple times.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
The timing is perfect. Do you have any final thoughts or anything that you wanted to share?
I think we talked about it all. Really just don't give up. Like it's going to be hard, whatever season you're in. Consistency is key until you know for sure, I can't do this. This is not adding anything to my life. I should pivot or reduce in size.
Yeah. And that's good because there are seasons when a market is not going to serve you. Being a vendor at a market is not the right fit, and you might just need to do porch pickups or little pop-ups. Or it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
It's really not. Yeah. Yep. Know your business. That's about all it boils down to.
So good.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. If anyone wants to see the local market, it is Bulverde Market Day. Are there some underscores in there?
Instagram there is. So it's Bulverde_market_day. Facebook is just Bulverde Market Day. And BulverdeMarketDay.com is our website.
Okay. So if you want some inspiration, Bulverde is spelled Bulverde. It looks like Bulverde. But we're in Texas, so we say it different.
We say different.
Okay, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you for having me.
As always, friends, if you are listening, whether you're on YouTube or a podcast platform, make sure you're following the show so you don't miss an episode when they drop. They are here every Monday and Thursday, and I'll be back with another episode very soon. But until then, happy baking.